Good afternoon and welcome to our fifth webinar. Today's session is going to focus on how to craft an impactful digital marketing strategy. I'm joined, Tobin, Managing Director, with Rafal Gemza, who's our Head of Strategy at Digital Ethos. We've got various aspects to discuss with you when it comes to strategy. As we all know, getting the right roadmap and the right understanding of what you want your strategy to be for any digital campaign is absolutely fundamental. It should be the first piece of any strategy or campaign that you start to do. We're going to talk through some of the best practice bits that we do as an agency to try and understand the brand that we're working with, and also look at the different channels that would fit the expectations and the goals that that company has. So who's Digital Ethos? Digital Ethos are a team of 22. We focus very much on becoming a core extension of other companies' marketing strands. So we don't like to replace, we like to add additional value. We build a lot of long-term relationships that way through really sort of making ourselves a part of the day-to-day team. Some of the customers that we've worked with now, there's a range here. Obviously, these are all sort of household brands or ones that you would recognize, but we do work with a complete range of customers of all different shapes and sizes, from one-man bands through to multinational businesses. So I think the beauty is, and something we'll teach you today, that if you understand what the strategy and the process is for success with digital, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you can find a working model. So for the webinar, you will all now be muted already. If you do want to speak, please wait to the end. That'd be really useful. There is a question function on the right-hand side where you can fill out questions throughout the presentation, and that'd be fantastic. If you see a slide or there's something that Rafal mentions that you want us to follow up on a little bit later on when we do the Q&A, please do write the question as we go along so we don't forget them, and we can make sure we cover everybody's then a little bit later into it. We will follow up after this with a full webinar recording, some questions, a few different tools and blogs, and some ideas for you to be able to really sort of take today's learnings and start to implement some of that yourselves. So on the panel today, joining myself, obviously you've met me now. There's Rafal, who I've mentioned, Head of Strategy, Rachel Holy as well, our social media consultant, and Michael Locke, our PPC consultant, also our PPC team lead. We've tried to put a bit of a collection of different departments and skill sets together for the panel, so we can answer pretty much any question that you have. You know, if it's not directly related to strategy and it's around another service, then please feel free to ask it as well. We've got an hour today together to really make sure that you get something to take away with you. So as I mentioned, any questions, please use the function. I'm just going to mention a couple of slides here, and then Raf's going to jump in. Really talking about, you know, how to get the most from your team. So if you have an internal team, or you have a marketing agency that you work with, or just a marketeer, freelance, whatever it might be, I think one question we get quite a lot is, you know, how do we understand the output? How do we get the most from that relationship? And I think where we have excelled as a business is that we have that sort of extension of the core team approach, and that means that we come in to an office, or we do a workshop quite often, where we'll spend 3-4 hours, sometimes a day or two, really understanding what that customer is trying to achieve, what they're about, what's their DNA. So I think it's really important to always have clear expectations, make sure that the agency is setting clearly defined goals, targets, or the consultancy are giving you that. Make sure that you understand the jargon. In the marketing world, there's lots of jargon, from PPC, SEO, CRO, UX, all the rest of it. Just understand what that is. And we have got a little booklet that we'll send you after, which breaks down a lot of that jargon for you. I think the key to success is to be transparent. Sometimes strategies that you start with might not work. Marketing, like anything, changes all the time. Google updates its algorithm for SEO every couple of months. There's a tweak or a change or something major. So you need to be agile, and the only way to be able to do that is to build a relationship where you can be transparent with each other, and you can really sort of join forces and navigate the minefield together. Set up and maintain regular touch points. This one sounds like a no-brainer, but you'd be amazed how many agencies that we hear have a monthly call to run through a report, and then you don't hear from them again for the rest of the time. So just really have a look at how to get the most from that. And if it's your internal team, set up weekly meetings, sit down, understand what they're working on and what they're doing. And I think a key here is to really trust the expertise of who you've hired into the team, or who you're using externally to do the job. There's always going to be questions, there's always going to be things that can be changed or improved, but trust the experience and trust the guidance. So what makes a good digital marketing agency? And this is a question that's actually popped up in every single other webinar that we've done in the last 2 months since the COVID crisis started. So we thought, you know what, let's put a slide in, let's put something behind this. So I think a good agency has to strike a balance of data, so understanding what's actually tangible, what's doable, what's the limitations of a search or an opportunity, but also how can we be creative to ensure that a brand gets in front of the right audience at the right time and starts to generate results. So regardless of the channel, that is absolutely fundamental, and you need to find an agency that has creativity but also is data driven. Have regular and transparent communication. I mean, our agency, we have a weekly call for the first 3 months, then it often moves to a bi-weekly, but we use a project management tool that's updated almost on a daily basis depending on what's going on the campaign. So full transparency is important. Make sure whoever you work with has a passion for what they're doing, and ideally has a team behind them. You're not just dealing with one consultant. I think that's important. You know, if that person was to leave after 2 years of managing your campaign, you don't want to be dropped in it, sort of starting again with somebody fresh. So make sure there's a team and there's multiple people within a business that understands what you're trying to do. They need to be consultative yet understanding. So a consultative agency won't always say yes to you. It's very important that, like any relationship, there's give and take, and you need an agency to understand and navigate the area of marketing for you, otherwise you wouldn't have employed them. So allow them freedom to do that, but also have that dialogue to make sure that that you understand why. We believe at our agency that you have to be an extension of a core team to work internally with stakeholders and people that are responsible for the marketing or the output, the sales, whatever it might be, to really understand how that works for a team. Data driven, I've mentioned, and then yeah, just be resourceful and efficient. You know, really think outside the box, and an agency should be constantly innovating. You should never feel like you're having to go to your agency giving them ideas. They should be coming to you. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Rafal now, head of strategy. He's going to take you through some of the learnings for today, and they are focused on all different shapes and sizes of businesses. There should be some really good bits for each of you to take away. Thanks.
Thank you, Luke. Can you hear me? Yeah, everything working correctly?
Yeah.
Good, very good. So whether you have your own team or an agency, I think it's great to understand how a strategy is developed, so how you can do it yourself. And this is a process I follow to create a strategy. This chart you can see on the screen. It's definitely not an in-depth instruction how to go into every detail on every single channel and how to create everything, but it should give you an understanding of how a strategy is created and how to think strategically for your business. So this graph that I follow has a couple of steps that I usually go through in that specific order. So first thing is to understand your own product, your own company, your own website, what you can improve or change about them to make them better. Then understand your customers, what are their interests, how do they shop, how do they look for your services, and how do they think, really. Then analyze your competitors, what are they doing, how hard it is to compete. That's the most important part here, because some channels may be really hard to compete on, some channels will be easier, and it's really important to understand which channel we can use to use your budget the best way we can. Then define your goals, so make sure your goals are achievable and not just a wishful thinking. Set your budget, get the best ROI. That's usually why you set a specific budget, to get the best return on your investment, so you actually make money instead of losing it. Select your channel, so where can you actually compete and what's the best choice based on the goals that you've set. And then plan the execution, so how to plan out your work to reach your goals. Okay, so the first two are understand your product and customers. And before anything, really, it's really important to understand what you can do with what you already have. So what I do to understand the product is go through the 7 P's of marketing mix. It's a very popular way of thinking about your own offering a product, and it focuses on the most important questions you should ask yourself before you even start thinking about the strategy. So product, services, how can you develop your products or services further? If you're an online shop, for example, can you add more products to your offering? If you're a dentist, you could think about, can you add more types of braces or ways of whitening your teeth? If you're a holiday company, can you extend your offering to different countries or different ways of travel? Anything that you can do to think of how you can develop your own service or products, just put it on paper and think about it. Then the next one is prices. How can you change your pricing model? Can you go any cheaper if it's necessary to do so? Can you offer payments in installments, maybe Klarna payments, any other payment options that you can give to people? It's really important to consider what you can do to make it as easy as possible for people to use your services. Then the next one is places access. So what kind of new distribution options you have or you could use to reach more people? So can you, if you're an online service, for example, can you create a mobile app to reach more customers on mobile? If you're an offline shop with just a simple website that shows where you are and what you offer, can you actually extend it to offer an online shop or delivery on your products? If you're some kind of an offline service, can you offer any online service through it? Like, for example, if you're a clinic, a health clinic, can you offer online appointments? Anything that you can think of to extend your offering to more people is really good to think about. The next one is promotion. So what kind of promotions can you afford to run? Can you do 10% off, 20% off? Can you offer free shipping on your products? Maybe you can offer free shipping over a certain amount that when people order. Can you offer 2 for 1 or anything? Maybe referrals, anything you can think of that you can actually afford to do would be great to just put on paper and consider during your strategy. Physical evidence, that's a really, really important one. So how do I let my customers know that they can trust me and my products or services? Do you have a great building, a great shop and friendly staff? Do your shop have great reviews or testimonials? Maybe great social media comments and a lot of engagement? Anything you can give people and show them that you can be trusted because people already trust you is really important. So how can you do that? Can you get reviews on Trustpilot, maybe on some traveling websites? It really depends on your business, but there are many ways you can think of to get that evidence. So the next one is people. Who are the people that you have? Do you have an agency that has a certain skills? Who are your employees? What are their skills that you can use for your strategy, for your marketing? Do you have these people? Do you need to train them? Maybe you need help from an external agency. It's really good to consider to what do you actually have and what do you need to outsource possibly. Then partners, do you have any partners, any affiliates that can help you? Is there anybody actively promoting your products or services? It's good to think about if you could have partners like that, or maybe you already have some. So the next, understand your website. So if you're trying to understand your product and we're talking about digital marketing, there's usually a website to consider. So let's treat your website as one of your products maybe, and try to understand it as well before you strategize about digital marketing. So is your website easy to use? That's usually the biggest question. When you go to your website and it's, for example, an online shop, is it easy to add your products to the cart? Is it easy to reach your products? Does it take 5 steps to actually be able to purchase something? Just try to use your website yourself, or if you so into your products already that you know everything about them, and it's really hard to put yourself in the shoes of someone new, ask a friend or a family member to review your website and see how easy it is to use and to reach what they have to reach. So if you're offering services, is your phone number visible straight away? So can people call you easily? Or do they actually have to look for the contact details? Because a lot of people just leave your website anyway if they can't find what they're looking for. So it's really important to consider that. So what are the keywords you are currently ranking for? It's probably hard to just know that without any SEO tools. I'll show you some SEO tools later, but just thinking logically about your services and Googling them in just a simple Google search could help you understand if you're ranking for anything or not. So if you're a dentist, you can Google dentist wherever you are. For example, if you're a dentist in London, you could Google dentist in London or dentist London or in a specific area and see if you are on the first couple pages of Google. That could give you an understanding of how you're currently doing and how your website is performing. Then think about what keywords should you or would you like to rank for. So like if we use the dentist example, do you want to rank for whitening? Do you want to rank for teeth straightening? It really depends what your services are, and you should think about what are the core keywords that you would like to rank for. What ads are you currently running? If you're running any, it's really good to know what you're currently doing just to be able to maybe learn on your mistakes or what has been working before. So understanding that is really important. What is the quality of the content of on your website? And is it actually useful to people that land on it? Is your content helpful, or is it just a couple hundred words that just talk about just generic things that nobody will actually read? Is your service being explained correctly on your website, or is it something that only you understand because you understand your service? It's really important to see that as well. And I think it helps if you ask your family or a friend to actually review this content from a perspective of someone who doesn't know the service as well as you do, which can be something that we sometimes forget if we are so into a certain thing that we do. So the next one is understand your customers. Try to put yourself in your customers' shoes. What do you think they are like? Who could be using your services? Try to engage with your customers if you can't talk to them. If you're offering a service and they call you, it's really good to try to talk to them and get a feeling of who they are and what their interests are. If you have salespeople, talk to them. They usually know a lot about the people they talk to. They're on the front lines and actively sell your products or services, so they will know a lot about many things when it comes to your customers. Sometimes they may even have personal relationships just developed through the sales process. So it's really useful to know what's happening there in those front lines. Survey or talk to your customers, again, talk, but you can use online surveys like SurveyMonkey, for example, to approach your customers and ask them about their interests or what they do or what they want to buy and what kind of services they want to use, how you can improve your services. Anything that you could use to upgrade your offering is a really good question to ask. Find social audiences and groups with relevant interests. So there's a lot of groups on social media, for example, Facebook, that you can join and see what people are talking about, which is really useful. And also you can register for an ad account on Facebook or LinkedIn, where you can actually create audiences based on people interests and check how big they are and what are the audiences connected to it. So what other audiences is Facebook, for example, showing you that are connected to the audience you already added there. So it's a really useful tool to understand who you could target and how big this audience actually is. And then the last one, and the best one in my opinion, is checking your demographics data on Google Analytics. It offers an overview of your audience's interests and behaviors. It only works if you already have a website and the traffic on there, and you actually turn on the demographics data in your settings. That's pretty easy. You can just go to settings and activate it. And if you need help, just let us know. But it gives you a lot of understanding on who your customers actually are. And the next slide actually shows you how it kind of looks like. So if you go to the audience and demographics and interests, you can see that the affinity and behaviors. So what they're interested in, how they shop, what their age is, and what their gender is, which could help you understand and structure your ads, for example, to a specific audience that you know is more likely to purchase from you. And the next one, analyze your competition. And it's a really important one. It's something that I do on a daily basis usually. So who are your real competitors is a big question, because sometimes we think that our competitors are the people we know about and our local competitors that we know about. But it really depends on the channel. So your competition on organic search may be something completely different than what you think so, because when you Google the keywords that you should be ranking for, there is someone else being listed there that isn't actually someone you know about. So it depends on the channel who your competitor really is. And in this, I will be focusing mostly on organic and paid search, with a little bit on other areas. But organic and paid search are kind of the most considered channels that we usually get. So I want to focus on that because I know it's the thing that interests people the most. So analyze your competition on organic search. Think about your keywords from the previous step. And if you don't have any SEO tools, and even if you do, it's usually the best thing to just Google your keywords. So when you Google a keyword like this example, digital marketing, you can see straight away who's ranking for them. And what I do myself is I check what they do and what it will take to actually be better than them. Because when it comes to digital marketing, it's not just about being like your competitors, but it's trying to do something better than they do, especially on organic search. If you want to outrank someone, you need better content or just better offering. So in this example, the first position is taken by HubSpot, which has almost 6,000 words, a lot of images, videos, very high authority, and a lot of backlinks. Then we have search metrics, then we have Wikipedia, and we know Wikipedia is probably the highest possible authority online. They have 9,000 words in this and 25,000 backlinks. And what this allows us to do is to see, are we actually able to compete with people that we want to rank for the keyword we want to rank for? So if you're trying to rank for digital marketing and you see that you will compete with Wikipedia and HubSpot, you straight away understand how much time it will take to try to outrank them. So it will give you an understanding later of what kind of budget do you need, or is it even a good idea to invest in that channel. So the next slide shows you a tool that I like to use in my research, which is called Ahrefs. If you know your competitors and you're not sure about your keywords, for example, you can check your competitors, then you can see what they're ranking for, which is something I use in my research. Because many times our clients know who their competitors are, and then I can see what those competitors are ranking for, and it gives me an idea what kind of keywords we would like to rank for as well. So it's a really helpful tool. But if you don't have it, you can usually think about what keywords you want to rank for and just Google them, like in the previous slide. So analyze the competition on paid search. The analysis here is very similar to SEO at first, because you can just Google your keywords and see who's advertising there. And in this example, digital marketing, again, you can see that you would be competing against LinkedIn, Salesforce, and some very high budget competition. So based on that, you can see straight away that your ads will be expensive because you're competing with someone who has, let's call it, unlimited budget. So do you have the budget or the time to invest in this kind of marketing? That's the kind of question you have to ask yourself when you're analyzing your paid competitors. And then on the next slide, you can see that you can use a tool, Ahrefs again, to actually check what your competition is advertising for. So you can actually get an idea of keywords and ads that your competition is running and check the cost per clicks. But if you don't have a tool like that, next slide, you can actually put your keywords into Keyword Google Planner on Google Ads. It's a really useful tool. You can use it for SEO as well, because it shows you the search volume for the keywords you want to check. So this will show you what the competitiveness of the keywords is, and it will show you the volume of the keywords as well, and their cost per click. So based on that, you can see, okay, I'm not sure what's the budget of my competition, because maybe your keyword isn't as obvious as digital marketing, and people that are advertising there, you don't really know who they are. But if you put your keywords in this keyword tool, you can see what the cost per click is, and based on that, you can kind of tell what your budget should be for that. So other areas, just quickly, who are your local competitors, the competitors you know of? You can usually tell if there are any big companies, well-known companies that provide the same service or product that you would be competing with. Can you see their remarketing ads or social ads after you visit their website? If yes, you know they are doing that. They're on these channels. You'll be competing with them. Do you know anything that the companies are doing? What are the prices? Do they run any promotions? It's really good to review all of that, see if you're competitive on prices. Do you run good promotions, or are they just better when it comes to prices or promotions or everything? Or maybe they're worse, but it's really good to draft that and be able to see if you have to maybe come back to your 7 Ps and ask yourself a question. Do I have to change my prices, or do I have to change my offers based on what you have just analyzed through your competitors? So next one is define your goals. That's my favorite one, because there are 2 types of goals I see. I always see goals as good or bad. So good goals are based on facts and data, and they're achievable in any way. Bad goals are usually very just a wishful thinking, and they're based on a wish, something we want, but we don't have any confirmation in facts that we can actually achieve it. So some examples, good goals should be tangible. So a good goal would be increase my website traffic by X% based on a search volume of keywords that I will be ranking for, or increase my sales by X% based on what my conversion rate is and what the trends are currently. Increase relevant organic rankings, for example, or my target return on ad spend of 200%, because we can see that it's working already on your ads. But bad goals would be, I want to have position 1 for a very competitive keyword in 3 months just because I want this, or I want to make £1 million because I'm buying a new car or a new house, but it doesn't have any confirmation in data that you can actually achieve it. These are the goals that you just want to achieve it because you want them. So what do I mean when I say goals based on data? If you really consider all these questions, it's easy to understand what can and what can't be achieved, really. So review competitor data from the previous step. Is it viable to outrank or outbid them on either SEO or PPC? Is it viable to outrank them quickly? Can you achieve your goal in 3 months, or will you need 12 months because the competition is so fierce? You will have to write blogs that are 8,000 words and get 20,000 links to them. That's something that you have to consider to know, okay, this is a goal I can achieve or not. Review a website, that's from step 1 again. How is it comparing to your competition? Is it going to take a lot of work to take it up to standards or get it better than your competition is? Is it going to take a lot of dev work? Is it going to take a lot of reviews of your UX and let's say conversion rate? And then review your 7 Ps again based on what you know now. Are there any changes you can make to that? Is there anything you can actually do to improve your products further based on what your competition is doing? Review analytics data and keyword data. Is there even enough search volume for your keywords and services to drive enough traffic to your website to achieve the goal you want to achieve? That's a really important thing, because if you want to drive 1 million people to your website in 3 months, but the search volume just isn't there, it's not going to be an achievable goal. Then review social audiences as well. Are these audiences big enough to reach through social channels? If you're trying to send 2,000 people to your website, but the audience is just 1,000 people, you will not be able to do that. So it's just the simple, really simple and logical things to think about while you're creating the strategy. Now, if you're not sure how to define your goals, because it may sound kind of scary, you can find the right employees that will take you through it, or you can find an external help from an agency, but never believe an agency that will say yes to every single goal, because everything should be based on research and facts. So they will need some time to, and some information from you as well, to know what goals can actually be achieved. Now, the next step is set your budget. So it's probably a simple thing, an obvious thing, but how much can you actually spend not to lose money and pay your bills? And another thing, don't expect unlimited growth with a limited budget. If your marketing starts working and you make more money and you want to keep growing more, you usually need to reinvest and invest more in your marketing, because with a limited budget and limited time, you can't constantly grow. That unlimited growth doesn't exist unless you have unlimited budget. So return on investment is probably one of the most important things when you're setting your budget, because while you're setting it, you need to know exactly how much you're going to make, how much you could make. So know your profit margin and conversion rates. You can know profit margins and conversion rates from, well, conversion rates you can know from analytics. Profit margin should be something you really know when it comes to your products and services. But how many people that you need to understand how many people that get in contact with you, for example, can you convert to paying clients? So if you get 10 calls every month and you can convert 5 of them, then that's 5 out of 10. But understanding that, okay, so if I get 10 calls, how many calls do I actually convert is really important for either your marketing team or your agency to understand if they're doing the right job. Now, if you have products, for example, how many people that view your products end up actually buying them? That's a very important question. So if you set up goals on Google Analytics, for example, you can set up a funnel that will show you exactly what the process of buying is, where you can understand how people end up buying or maybe dropping off the buying process, which is a really useful thing to understand. And again, what is your profit margin on each of your service and products? Because if you, let's say you get 10 calls every month and you convert 5, is the 5 enough to pay for your marketing? So on the next slide, actually, if you're working with a team or agency, do not withhold any of that financial information. It's not created for us to take as much money out of you or for your marketing team to take as much money out of you as they can. It's simply an information we need to know how to drive the right return on investment for you, to know what kind of channel we can use to give you the return on investment. So an example here is if you spend £1,000 per month on your marketing, any channel, PPC or SEO, and your service costs £200. Let's say you offer one service and it costs people £200. You convert 5 out of every 10 calls and your website conversion rate is 1%. Then if you want to get back that £1,000, you need to send at least 1,000 people to your website, get 10 calls, get 5 conversions, £200 each, and then you'll make £1,000. So for us to understand this is really important, because then we can know, okay, what is your budget, how much we have to make you in order for you to have a return on investment, which is really important because otherwise we don't know how we're doing. Then choose your channels. So in order to choose your channel, you need to be mindful of your budget, obviously, because every channel may be a different, let's say the competition is different there. So it may be harder or easier depending on that. You need to think about where you can compete and think about that competition. So another thing you have to think about is what is your goal and what would be the best way to reach it based on the channel. So I'll go through some of the channels and show you what you should consider on them. So the next one is organic search. It's a pretty long-term channel. What you do now can bear fruit in 3, 6, or even 12 months from now. It does require really careful planning because you need to review all of that competition, see what they offer, offer something better than them on those listings that you have. The budget and time investment really depends on that competition and their performance. Like the example we use, if you're competing with Wikipedia and HubSpot, it will require a lot more time and content than if you're competing with some local clients. That's why sometimes prices for SEO, for example, vary, because your competition may be so authoritative online that it will require a lot of time to just compete with them. SEO will not get you results instantaneously, but it's probably one of the highest ROI channel you can get, because once you get to that point, you still have this one, let's say, either management fee or time that you spend on SEO, and you get that ROI. It doesn't have a budget that you have to switch like paid channels. And it retains some rankings when you turn it off. It's not like PPC where you turn it off and your ads stop. But if you stop SEO and trying to optimize your website and constantly reviewing your competitors and your rankings, they will slowly degrade. So I wouldn't recommend completely switching off SEO, but it does retain some rankings for a while. The next one is paid search. It's a medium-term channel, usually becomes well optimized within 2 to 3 months. You do need to carefully plan and budget it, because the budget heavily depends on competition and the cost per click of your keywords, like we mentioned before. It does stop completely when it's turned off, and once you stop spending money, the ads will disappear. ROI really depends on the products or services as well, and the CPC. So you need to consider, okay, if the CPC is £20, but I'm selling something for 10, it may not be the best channel for me. The CPC is the cost per click, by the way. So the best results are usually seen from consistent testing. You have to test ad placements, schedules, different messages, devices, and different keyword intents. So it does take a lot of testing, but once it's optimized, it can be a really good traffic and conversion driving channel if the CPC isn't too high and if you have the budget. Paid social ads, I consider them to be usually the shortest term channel, because they take the least time to optimize. And well, they do require some careful planning, and most than anything, they require some design of your ads. You need to really think about who you're targeting, what your audience is, and how you can design your ads to target them. Maybe some eye-catching videos or banners. It's very creative. It does have to stand out for people to notice your ads. It allows targeting by interests and behaviors, which is really interesting. So taking what you know about your customers from the step one, you can use their interests and behaviors to target other people that have similar interests, and test your ads against that. See if it's a pattern, maybe, that people with specific behaviors will be more interested in your services. The budget here depends on the size of the audience, but it has very low CPCs compared to paid search, for example. So it's a really good investment if you don't have a very high budget and you want to test different audiences. It does stop completely when turned off again, and the ROI depends on your services, but it is the cheapest paid channel so far. The next one is organic social. It's a long-term investment. It does require very clever building up of your audiences. It doesn't have a straightforward ROI. It's more of a tool that will help your brand awareness and engagement on other channels. It's very creative. Again, you do have to think about how you can build up your audience. It doesn't require a big budget. If you have an agency, you usually have like a set management fee. It's usually a medium or cheap kind of thing. May require running some competitions and giveaways and things like that, so be prepared to spend some money on that, but it's definitely not a very expensive channel. And what it really helps with is that physical proof, the trust signal that your company exists on social media and people are engaging with it, which means I can trust you, because a lot of people that search for products or services will review and search for you on social media and see if you actually exist. Now, the summary of these channels: SEO is long-term, budget depends, sorry, next slide, yep. Budget depends on competition, but it's static. It has long-term goals. So if you have a long-term goal that you want to achieve, SEO may be a choice for you. PPC is medium-term, budget depends on CPCs and changes based on competition and trends. So you may have to invest more later or less. It really depends on the trends. And it's for the more medium-term goals that you have. Social ads, it's shorter term. The budget depends on audiences, has low CPCs, so it's usually cheaper than PPC itself. It's for shorter term goals, not blogs. And you can probably achieve things a little bit faster than on other channels here. Then organic social is the cheapest channel, I would say. It's very good for social trust. Doesn't have a straightforward ROI, but it does support with all of your goals and getting that trust signal there. There are really no instantaneous strategies for success, but these channels can help you achieve it in a certain amount of time. So then the last thing really is to create a plan. And in order to create a marketing plan, you have to use all of that competitor data you've gathered and think about how can you actually outdo them. Think about your 7 Ps, compare what you can do to what they do, and just draft it and put it in maybe a spreadsheet. See what keywords, if it's SEO or PPC, see what keywords you want to have, how they're doing that. Put it all in one document where you can gather all that data and review it every couple of months, really. Try to be better than your competitors, or at least different in any way. Have a very unique selling point. What makes your product different? What makes your service better or different? Think about that, and when you create your plan. Draft a 12-month plan, so create a Gantt chart maybe, or just a list of tasks of what you can do to get you closer to your goals. So if your website is worse than your competitors, plan this out. If you need 8,000 words on your pages because that's what's ranking already, plan out how you can deliver that and how long it will take, and try to plan it out within 12 months so you have a clear understanding of what you have to do in the next months or weeks. Then review your strategy every couple months, because markets change. Your competitors change their strategies. Your products may change. The trends may change as well. So prepare to change your strategy if needed and review it every now and then. And the most important part, observe and take notes on what's going on, because it's almost impossible to tell what can be achieved without having at least a couple of months of data or experience in what you're doing. So observing and taking a note on how your specific changes work on your website, maybe your traffic, conversions, will help you understand, or you review your marketing strategy later on what actually worked and what didn't, or maybe something that actually hurt your marketing. And you'll know much better once you run a couple of these strategies what actually works for you and what doesn't. So it's really important to just make sure you take note on everything you do and how it affects your service. That will be it.
Excellent. Thank you, Rafal. That was superb. Really, really useful. Hopefully everybody has got some questions for us now as well. So what we're going to do is jump into our Q&A session. As I mentioned at the start, there is a function on the right-hand side where you can fill out questions. We've had a few throughout. If you do have others, please do fill them out now. And we have our panel together. So obviously, you know, Raf and myself now. Rachel's here as well from a social point of view, and Michael from a PPC standpoint. I don't think there's any questions that we probably can't answer when it comes to digital or strategy. So please fire away, and we're happy to support. So just jumping into them now. So first one is from Julian. Just saying, great, thank you so much. Really insightful. There's a question here, Raf, about where can I survey the customer again? What tools could I use?
Oh, the best tool is SurveyMonkey, but there is a couple of other tools. If you search for online surveys, there is a lot of tools like that. SurveyMonkey allows you to create your survey really quickly. For example, you can send it out to your customers. You can also use a Google service. I actually don't remember how it's called exactly, but we can add it to the resources on the slides that allows you to pay for surveys. Basically, you can target your audience on a couple of things, really specific things, and you can ask people questions and they will get paid for answering these questions, basically, and you will pay Google for it. And you can get an understanding of how people are reacting. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much. One here for Michael. Michael, can a PPC campaign have a positive impact on the overall digital marketing campaign?
Yes, definitely. So PPC is not only just about paying per clicks as such, as we see with many of our clients and a lot more businesses, that once you're launching a PPC campaign, what you're also doing is generating brand awareness. And if that person has a positive experience with your website, they can reuse you in future. So even if they're not at this stage, so if we take today's economic climate, there's a lot of buyer behavior which is less likely to lead to a purchase compared to 2 or 3 or 4 months ago. So running a PPC campaign now, although you may not be generating as many inquiries as, for example, you could be, you're also generating brand awareness. So it may be a delayed attribution, but later down the line, it'll also help with direct and organic traffic as well. So it's really one to test. If you're considering launching a Google Ads campaign, absolutely fantastic. Once it launches, jump into your Google Analytics or whatever analytics tool you use and have a look how it affects your other mediums as well. If you see an increase in direct traffic and organic traffic, great, but just see how it affects the conversions and the users as well.
Lovely, thanks, Michael. And one for Rachel. Rachel, there's a question here that says, if you had a limited budget, would you pick investing that money into organic social or paid social? And what would the potential be for each?
Okay, cool. So I think when it comes to budget, if there's anything that you want to put towards, paid social would definitely be a good option for that, because that's how you can control how much you spend. Whereas when it comes to organic social, there's a lot that you can do sort of for free, as if it were, and then you can sort of look into your content and sort of post it on the feed. So when it comes to budget, definitely paid social. LinkedIn is one if you're a B2B company, so that way you can target other businesses and decision makers, whereas with Facebook, it's got the biggest audience out of them all, so that plays a part when it comes to looking at your audiences as well. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Lovely, thanks Rach. Raf, one here for you. How much does UX play its part in campaigns? How much of a part does UX play in campaigns?
I would say a good UX is really important because it's the part of that customer journey we discussed on the first two slides. Well, not slides, but the first two parts of the chart. It's when you understand how hard or easy it is to access specific services or products on your website. That's basically the UX, and it's really important to know that and make it as easy as possible for people to reach what they want, because people these days have a very short attention span. So I would say UX is a very big part of any digital campaign.
Excellent, thank you. One here for Michael. Michael, is there a best fit strategy for using ads as a new business or a startup?
I'd always say research on this. As a new business, you need to know if the audience is there already looking for your product or service. So you can use Keyword Planner. There's loads of tools that you can use for this. You can use Ahrefs. Potentially you could use SEMrush, and you can use Keyword Planner as well. If you're a new business, set realistic goals. So if your average conversion is about £1,000, £2,000, £3,000, I'd say look at putting at least 50–60% budget in that, because what you can't say is you want to spend £100 and you want to get 10,000. There's got to be a consistent and agreed level of conversion there, and especially if you want to be competitive. So the first rule I'd say is look at your keyword planner, look at how often your audience is searching and how much it's actually going to take to be top of the page. Secondly, I'd make sure that you've got conversion tracking in place. So you need to make sure that if you're spending £1, how much ROI are you going to make off that pound? If you're a service business, it's great to assign some monetary value per conversion on your website. It's more tailored towards e-commerce businesses and people who sell tangible goods. However, if you look at how much your average customer is or lifetime value of that customer, you can also assign it to conversions that are not product sales based either. So I'd always make sure that you've got conversion tracking set up so you know exactly how much you're making. I'd make sure that you know how competitive it must be and how much you need to spend to be top 3 positions, because what you'll usually find is that a lot of a lot of people will stop scrolling after the third position. So you need to make sure that if you're wanting to get those top conversions, you need to have enough budget behind it. And I'd also make sure that you do thorough competitive research. So start with the sort of keywords that you're looking to target, and then look at the intent behind them. If they're very question-based, I'd stay away, especially if you're looking to conversion. And then have a look at what your competitors are doing. So if their landing page is great, if they've got forms above the fold, which basically means when they land straight onto the website, whereas you've got forms at the bottom of the page, chances are you're going to lose out there, because people, like Raf expertly said earlier, people have lower attention spans. So making sure that you can get that person to convert as much as possible when landing on that page is really key, especially when you want to start growing PPC.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. Brilliant answer. One here from Shandan. What strategies should a startup be focusing on? I think we've probably covered a little bit there in both, you know, what Raf has said and what Michael said, but really I think it's evaluating where your competition sits, what your opportunity is, what your positioning is for your industry, and your point of difference. And I think if you can start to understand that, then you can start to look at the channels that might be most relevant or effective, depending on budget and expectation, of course. So you know, I think really going through some of the steps, we are going to share the steps that we've taught today, will really help you to analyze which strategy and which channel would be best suited. We're also offering a bit of a sort of couple of hours of free support as well. If you did want us to sort of look at that with you, or any work that you've already done, we can pick it up and just dissect it with you to sort of understand how and where the model might fit. A final one here for Rachel. What is the best way to find or define audiences? For example, how do I know what my customers would like, and how to target them?
Okay, so when it comes to defining your audience on social media, there may or may not be similarities between those and the audience that maybe you define for SEO, for example. So it's really important to sort of explore the social channels that you're currently wanting to work on. It's always really good to sort of just have a nose, basically, to see what your customers are like from their personal profile point of view. And also look at who your competition, is looking at as well. There are several ways to sort of have a look into it from a paid social point of view as well. So for example, if you go on one of your competitors' Facebook profiles, there's something called page transparency that you can look at. Again, I can follow up on this one as well, so you know how to look for it. But basically it just shows you the ads that your competition are currently running, and obviously by then you can sort of see sort of who they're talking to as well. When it comes to defining and building your audiences on your campaign manager as well, you can sort of upload the customer data that you already have, and then they sort of build a lookalike audience from that perspective as well. But I guess all in all, it's just about just having a look yourself on your social media channels, see who's engaging with what. Twitter's a really good one as well, to see what they're talking about, look at what topics are trending on Twitter that way as well. Yeah, just a general have a look and do your research.
Lovely, thanks, Rach. And that's the end of the questions for today. So just to have a final sort of run through of what we're going to send over to all of you, and thanks again for being part of this. You know, as feedback, it'd be great to get any ideas on future webinars and things that you'd like us to cover. As long as there's a demand, we'll keep doing these and giving out some information. So some really cool tools here that we use. We've got sort of Night Watch, which is a tracking tool that we use for monitoring keyword movements. Ahrefs, Raf mentioned on several occasions. It's a fantastic tool for understanding competitor data, looking at sort of profiles of each web page and how you can compete. Quite a few of these tools do similar things, but it just gives you a range there to have a look. And most of them offer some sort of trial as well, so you can, I think SEMrush or Ahrefs gives 14 or 30 days trial, so maybe give it a go, see how you get on with it. There'll definitely be some learnings in there. And then obviously, you know, a few bits that we sort of mentioned a couple of times is analytics. Make sure you've got all your funnels set up, make sure that you're working with analytics to understand your customer journeys. We have some blogs as well, some of our own and some others, some industry experts as well from other sources that we thought would be really useful just to have a look through. So what next from here? We, as I mentioned, Shandan recently, we are going to offer a bit of support. So if you need us to have an initial sort of strategy review with you, we can do that. And then we're happy to do an audit as well, which is normally, you know, 2-3 hour exercise for us, as well as the initial call. But, you know, we're offering that at the moment just to try and give a bit of support back in this time of crisis. We will obviously have the video online as well, so you can watch us over a few times. And the next webinar that we have at the moment will be around UX, so a guide to UX on your website. You know, what does good UX look like, all the different principles, how you can get the most basically from the user experience of your sites. We will send around a go-to link so you can register for that one, and obviously any other questions, feel free to contact us on the email address shown. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you next time, and thank you so much again for joining us today. Have a good Friday and a weekend ahead. Bye for now.